Okay, friends, let's continue with chapter 12, Steele's Story. Sunlight shimmered on Dr. Wu's black hair, glinting off stray specks of fairy dust. Her almond-shaped black eyes looked out over the tangled forest. Even with that scar on her face, Pearl thought she was the prettiest woman she had ever seen, and definitely the most mysterious. And she and Ben knew very little about her, only that she had lived in Iceland before moving to Buttonville, and that she had had the most amazing job in the whole wide world. They had also learned that she had met a very dangerous man named Maximus Steele. Now she was going to tell her apprentices more about him. The grass was quite comfortable, spongy and warm. Pearl scooted closer to the doctor so she wouldn't miss a single word of her story. Ben pushed up the sleeves of his lab coat, equally eager to hear the tale. Dr. Wu softly cleared her throat, and as she spoke, she kept her voice quiet, continuing to watch the forest. When I was about your age, I worked as an apprentice to my grandmother, Dr. Diamond Wu, one of the most respected veterinarians to care for imaginary creatures. We had moved to a new town, and I was going to school on weekdays and apprenticing on the weekends. I was also on my school soccer team and the marching band, so you can imagine how busy I was. I love soccer, Pearl blurted out so loudly she startled a passing dragonfly. It squeaked with alarm and fluttered away. Oops, sorry. She brushed her loose hair from her eyes. Perhaps we can play a game sometime. Dr. Wu pulled a rubber band from her pocket and proceeded to gather Pearl's hair into a ponytail. Unfortunately, secret veterinarians often move from town to town to avoid being detected, and because of this, I didn't have many friends. And because I could never invite anyone to my house, I never had a best friend. That is, until I met Maximus. She turned and spoke directly to Ben. He looked a bit like you those days. When you stepped into my office that first time, I thought you were a ghost from my past. I don't believe in ghosts, Ben said. I don't blame you for not believing in them. They are very difficult to see, and in many cases, seeing is believing. She turned her focus back toward the forest. A few treetops rustled. Pearl sat straight. Was there something out there? She and Ben held their breaths as more treetops rustled, and when nothing appeared, Dr. Wu shifted position and continued her story. Max made me laugh. He was the class clown, always telling jokes and pulling silly pranks. We went to the marching band practice together. He played the tuba while I played the flute. We would get in trouble because we were laughing and we couldn't walk in a straight line. One day, he laughed so hard he fell right over and dented his tuba. Her mouth turned up slightly, forming a brief smile as she remembered this moment, and then her smile faded. His family was very poor and they couldn't afford to buy a new tuba, so he was kicked out of the marching band. Well, that didn't seem fair, Pearl said. Without marching band practice, Max didn't have anything to do. Because he was my best friend, I persuaded my grandmother to make him an apprentice. I swore to her that he was a good person. I promised her that he could be trusted. She picked a blade of grass and ran it through her fingertips. He never broke the contract of secrecy, but he showed signs of temptation, signs that worried my grandmother. Temptation, Ben said. Max had been brought up always wanting something. He never had new clothes or nice shoes. His family got their food from the food bank, and he was often very hungry. And when he saw all that the imaginary world had to offer, he began to scheme ways to get rich. He told me that we should take a few of the creatures and sell them to a zoo. Of course, I refused. A Wu would never do such things. One day, he put a fairy in his pocket and tried to bring it back through the portal. My grandmother found out, and she fired him. The breeze picked up, rustling branches. In the distance, a flock of giraffe birds took to the sky. We had to move, of course. Grandmother was afraid that Max would reveal our secrets. We left right in the middle of the night. I was too angry to say goodbye. I had just started to feel at home, and because of him, I had to leave a soccer team, a marching band, and a best friend. He ruined everything. She paused. Pearl felt as if an eternity had passed before Dr. Wu started talking again. The next time I saw him, I had just graduated from the university. We ran into each other at a conference. He had become a famous animal collector and was giving a lecture on how to trap exotic animals. He said he still wanted to be my friend, but what he really wanted was access to the imaginary world. Pearl remembered the giant trap that had been used to capture the rain dragon. "So how did he get in?" she asked. "I do not know." "Is this why the unicorn blessing is broken?" Pearl asked. "Did Maximus Steel come here to take the horn?" She almost didn't want to hear the answer. "It is possible." The doctor's expression was heavy with concern. "A unicorn is the most coveted horn of all, the most precious in the world." "Why?" Pearl asked. "Because it contains magic." "Really?" Ben shooed away another dragonfly. "Oh, what can it do?" "Well, when it is ground into a fine powder, a unicorn horn can cure illness and make poisoned water drinkable." "Whoa, that could help a lot of people," Ben said. "The water in Los Angeles isn't poisonous, but it tastes terrible." "Wait a minute, I don't understand something," Pearl said. "Why would he have to trap a unicorn to get a horn? I mean, couldn't he find one on like a unicorn skeleton?" "Once a unicorn dies, its body disappears. Nothing is left behind. So the only way to get a horn is to take it from a living unicorn." Pearl pictured the big, gaping wound that had been left on the rain dragon's head. How could someone do that to another living creature? "Look," Ben said and pointed towards the forest. A patch of trees swayed. Something was moving in the foliage, leaving a trail of rustling branches in its wake. Slowly, Dr. Wu got to her feet. "Don't say a word." Pearl and Ben stood silently watching. The movement headed towards the forest edge, and then a wondrous sight emerged. Pearl nearly forgot how to breathe.